it's Wesley with 22 Zines. I found this glow-in-the-dark cat ear headband, and so I'm absolutely going to be wearing this for the rest of this video series, or until I get sick of wearing it. Welcome back to Zines for Greenhorns. This is part 2, Inspiration, where we're going to talk about how you can find some basic direction for your zine and generally get the juices flowing to make it easier for when we get into part 3, which is the actual setup of your materials and pages and that sort of thing. You absolutely do not have to have your entire zine planned out ahead of time, or any of your zine planned out ahead of time. It just is probably going to be helpful to have a vague, basic idea of where you want to go with it, some of the content you might want to include, or the mediums that you might want to use, because that will probably influence some of the practical decisions that we make down the line, such as size and length and that sort of stuff. Hurry up. There is one very simple, very basic decision that I advise you to make right now as soon as possible, which is, are you planning to print / photocopy this zine? You don't have to photocopy zines. It can stay as a one-of-a-kind physical thing, or you can do an all-digital zine. But knowing whether you're going to do it is going to have a really big impact on what mediums you're able to use and what materials you're realistically going to be able to include in your zine. For example, if you're going all digital, then you can obviously use things like animated GIFs that just don't work in print. If you're going physical but you are not planning on photocopying it, then you have the possibility of using more three-dimensional objects or one-of-a-kind things that don't photocopy well. That's absolutely fine. Those are absolutely valid, and they definitely count as zines. But in general, for the purpose of this guide, I'm going to be focusing on zines that will ultimately be printed or photocopied, or at least that will have the option of doing so. Hurry up. Now we're getting into the big part, which is choosing a basic direction for your zine, a basic idea or set of ideas or something that you want to do with it to give you something to grab onto as you go forward. I want to say right off the bat that the most important thing is don't let the inspiration gathering and the planning phases and all of this get in the way of actually making your zine. It can be really easy to get caught up in the planning process and then never actually get something on paper. It's definitely easy for me to do that. So you really only need as much inspiration as is going to get you started. As we go forward, I'm going to split things into 2 categories, mainly just for ease of talking about it. That is topics and mediums. So the topic is basically like the content, as in what your zine is about, and then the mediums are the mode of expression. For example, your topic might be your childhood best friend, your best friend from childhood, Halloween, ecofeminism, your favorite movies. Like those are the things that it's about. And then the medium are the modes of expression, the way that you are talking about it. So you could say photographs, illustrations, like interviews, poetry, articles. Like those are sort of the ways in which you express your topic. And that's just going to make it a little bit easier as we go forward. And also it might be a good way for you to get inspiration if you feel like, okay, so I really want to do an illustration zine that's focused on illustrations, then you sort of have that set, and then you can focus on the topic generation portion. Or if you're like, okay, I really want to do it on this particular topic, like I really want to do a Halloween zine, then you can focus on, okay, well, how do I want to express that? Do I want to do, writing about Halloween? Do I want to do a collage? Do I want to do blah, blah, blah? That, might help you kind of sort things out in your brain. It helps me. Hurry up. In selecting a topic, I recommend starting with whatever you usually do for your idea generation. If you like making lists as idea generation, if you like gathering quotes, if you like making like a mood board kind of thing. If there's, you know, one specific something like an icon that is inspiring you, then you can go with that and sort of pick a topic based on that. Just whatever you usually do to generate your ideas, start there, because that's always going to be the easiest and most personal way to get going. If you're really stuck on an approach of how to go about picking a topic, then you might find it helpful to pick a general category of zine, one of the 4 categories that I talked about in the last video. I'll reiterate them here, and kind of go with that to start narrowing things down. The categories that I talked about were instructional zines, informational zines, artistic zines, and perzines. So perhaps you would find it helpful to say, okay, I want to make a zine that's teaching people how to do something. And then that starts to narrow it down. It's like, what could you teach people how to do? What's something that you know how to do or that you're interested in learning yourself, that you could explore that through making a zine? Or if you are like, I want to use this as a form of artistic expression, then you can be like, okay, well, that helps to narrow it down a little of, you know, you're framing it as an art piece, and so whether it's helpful or informative is not really something that you have to consider. That sort of thing can help narrow it down. That's another tip, is don't feel like you have to do everything in one zine. Zines in general are pretty short form things, and so you can just make a whole bunch of them if you want to. Especially, I think, for first timers, it can be very difficult to break the ice, because you kind of feel like, especially if you've wanted to make zines for a while, or you've been sort of hemming and hawing about it, to be like, well, you know, when I do finally make this zine, it's got to be everything that I love about zines all in one. And it's like, you know, it doesn't have to. You can make more. If you are writing an instructional or informational zine, then I have a couple of prompts just to get you thinking that you might want to use for a topic. You might consider writing about something that you know about already, even if it's just a little bit. Something that you feel the world or your community needs to know about and doesn't, or that you wish more people knew about. It could be something that you want to learn more about yourself, and you use the process of making the zine to learn about it. Sort of, I think I already mentioned that. If you're making a zine primarily for artistic expression, you might try limiting the materials that you use in a new way, using really cheap or different materials. You might try making something ugly on purpose, intentionally trying to make it ugly. You might try picking sort of a muse subject and using that to carry you through the entire zine. Or you might use it as basically like a portfolio of stuff that you have already done. You gather other projects that you've done, and you use this as sort of a way of highlighting or sharing these projects. And if you're doing a perzine, you might like to consider exploring your past or your present or your future, any or all of these things, aspects of your identity, expressing your opinions, and or your joys and sorrows, things that make you feel good, things that make you feel bad, things that have happened to you that you love, or that, you know, or negative experiences if you want to process those, anything like that. I realize that these are all pretty broad. If you are looking for really more specific prompts about what to do for a zine, then you could consider using prompts from International Zine Month. I will link, I guess, the most recent ones in the description below, or you could go back and find some previous prompts from previous zine months, and that might help if you're really seeking some more specific direction. Whatever idea you end up going with, don't feel limited in medium or expression by that idea. Don't feel like some ideas only work in certain mediums, because that is generally not true. For example, if you wanted to make a zine about marine life, marine animals, and you wanted it to be an informational zine because you've learned all these fun facts about marine animals that you really want to share, then you can do that in a variety of ways. It doesn't have to include text at all if you don't want to. It could entirely be, photographs that you've taken or photographs that you've gathered. It could be sort of like science diagrams, if that's the component that you want. It could be drawings, it could be illustrations, it could be lists, it could be interviews, it could be a huge variety of mediums. Once again, you don't need to be really specific. You really just want enough to get you going. And as we go forward with the setup process, you'll probably start to form in your mind a little bit more of an idea of where you want to go, how long it's going to be, all that sort of stuff.
Maniac! Hurry up!
Now we will talk a little bit more about mediums, things that you might, like techniques, modes of expression that you might want to include in your zine. Zines themselves are basically a form of mixed media, and so just for clarity, when I am saying mediums in this context, I'm basically talking about the different ways in which you could express something within the general format of zines. So if you think of zines as mixed media, then the mediums that you're using for that media are what we're going to be talking about. As I'm sure I've said at some point, pretty much anything that you can put on paper or digitally can be part of a zine. And so I think the best way to talk about this is basically just going to be to give you a big list of different ideas for mediums that you might want to employ in your zine. And the way I'm going to do that is I will just show you a whole bunch of different examples that other zines have used. So I'm going to turn the camera around and we'll take a look. First up, a zine staple, collage of images and or text. As you can see here with Permacrust number 4. And there's another zine classic thing is to put text or drawings or cutouts onto a patterned background to basically make it look a little bit more interesting rather than just plain text. You just cut it out and put it onto a patterned background, or you could use a border, but that is another form of collage. Copy or glitch art. The analog version, as exemplified by this zine, is basically when you put something on the photocopier or scanner glass while it is scanning, and you kind of move it around, or you mess with the settings a whole bunch to make it copy strangely or interesting, and you get these sort of like glitchy looking effects. This is analog glitches, turn your printer into a glitch machine. Or you could do digital glitching if you have access to any sort of digital art program, or I'm sure that there's websites that you can put filters through and, make it very glitchy or neon, or, layering multiple things, digital glitching. There's so many things that you can do with it. Oh, this is Mall Date 2008. Illustration, drawing things or doodling and including them in your zine using any sort of drawing material or format that you'd like. This is Draw a Garfield. This is another example of an illustration style. Very simple, pen and ink, cool textured contour kind of thing. Familiar. The zine is Familial Artifacts. A lot of people will use their entire zine as basically like an art book, an art portfolio showing off things that they've done. So this is from an artist who had already been doing a drawing challenge and included all of the illustrations that they did as a zine. What was this one called? This is, let's see, Witches 2019 collection. You can do physical painting or manipulation with paint on paper in any number of ways. This is a one-of-a-kind zine, so it doesn't have a title or anything, but you can see that the creator basically just painted the backgrounds over paper to get like these really nice textures. This is just plain black paint, or paint pens. You can use those too. You could do poetry. I'm including this in sort of the list of art mediums as opposed to writing mediums, although there's definitely overlap in this case, because you can definitely utilize the sort of space of the page to your advantage in communicating your poem. You can use it as part of collage. This is Divinely Cursed. Here's another example from Suburban Waste, where it's basically the collage method that we saw before of cutting out the text and putting it on patterned background as a way of expressing this poem. And in fact, we even get what I would call some copy or glitch art, in the sense that the contrast is turned like super duper way up on the photocopier to get this weird sort of cutouty look. You can include photographs. Many zines are photography zines where the entire zine is comprised of photographs. This is Livor Mortis. Here's another example, Performing Femininity Trials of Gender. This is done with I don't know exactly, but a special type of printing, so it turned out really shiny. But yeah, you can express your photographs in any way that you want. You can include them as part of collage or other things. You can include sequential art, which is basically multiple pieces of art in a specific order to communicate a narrative. So comics are definitely an example of that, in sort of the traditional like paneled comics, as we can see here in Triumph, New Mexico. But also you can just do, series of images either that you've made or found, or photographs or drawings or whatever you want, that are just kind of put next to each other, and then it makes almost like a kind of comic. It's, that's why I call it sequential art. And you could try typewriting, stamping, and otherwise using physical lettering techniques. In my Succulent Concrete Heart #2, this creator has used photograph of fridge magnets to spell out text of a month. Typewriting on a typewriter. This one happens to be a cursive typewriter. Let's see where I have these other ones. Stamping letters. Used, like that. Or this isn't exactly physical lettering, but I had to show it off because I've never seen it in a zine before. A photograph of a crochet piece that itself is used as kind of a background for this collage within the zine. You could write articles for your zine. Fiddler's Green is a collaborative zine that is made entirely of articles, sort of different articles on different things, like you would see in a magazine. Or you can use the article format kind of as a way of structuring your own content. This is Unfair Maiden #5, my perzine, where I basically just have different sections that are each kind of their own articles within it. So like, as you can see here, these are two different articles. Pinkie Pie deserves respect. Congratulations, you like manga. You could write diary entries, sequential entries that are dated. Here's one, We've Made a Huge Mistake, a zine about driving across the country with everything you own, which is written in the order of the trip. Travelogues are another thing that you could consider including within this format. Here's another example, another one of mine, 27 Countdown Daily Diary, where I created the zine over a series of days, and then each day was a different diary entry. You could have interviews and include those in your zine. This is The Lichens #1, which is a fanzine about a band, and there is an interview transcribed from a recording with one of the members of the band. You could do that, either have the entire thing written, you could have it transcribed, you could do an audio zine, lots of different ways you could do interviews. You could write out manifestos or affirmations, kind of like guiding principles, things that you'd like to live up to. This is from QTBIPOC Guide for Staying Brown and Down. And within this zine, this center spread are these affirmations. And then in Sacred Pussy, Volume 1, it begins with a meow-nifesto of the sort of purpose that they have behind creating this zine. You could write memoirs. I basically make the distinction between a memoir and diary entries in the idea of thinking of a memoir as something that happened before that you are reflecting on and sharing. Diary entries are sort of like that, but they're usually over a shorter time span. This is Goth Gang, a memoir, which of course I had to include. It's got memoir right there in the beginning, and so it's sort of talking about previous experience in 9th grade, etc. Pochi here by Cat Moth Crow, it doesn't say on the front, is also kind of like that, where it's over a shorter period of time, but it is things written in retrospect. You could include news in your zine. News about what's happening in your area, what's happening in the world, what's happening in scenes that you're involved in. This is The Observer, and they have a recurring section of the magic number in the media, which is basically a collection of headlines from the beginning of the last zine to when the zine comes out. One of my favorite things to include, and honestly an underutilized medium in zines, is puzzles and games. I really like having those in here. It feels so fun. This is my zine, again, Unfair Maiden, this time number 1, and it's got a little version of Boggle. It's got a little logic puzzle opposite a comic, sort of referencing like the Just for Fun pages you'd see in magazines. No Scene Zine issue 4 has a ton of fun games. They've got a goth name generator. They have a little flowchart of how to find your Halloween costume. And Content Queen here has a little quiz. Is your boyfriend cheating on you? And you sort of go through each one and pick which section you have most common, A, B, or C, and then that tells you. So, there are so many different types of puzzles and games that you could include crosswords, any type of word game, anything that you can print on paper. You can include quotes in your zines, or even have a zine that is almost entirely made of quotes. This is the Hieratic Art, or the Alchemy of Talismans. And this is a lot of quotes and things that are just directly copied and shared from different sources with then their own notes on it, but you don't have to include your own notes either if you don't want to. You can include recipes. This is Food to Cook When You Would Really Rather Die, and has a big collection of easy recipes. You might include reviews. This is My Complicated Relationship with Food, reviews of some of the things we put in our mouths, Volume 2, and are all reviews of foods. This is Chud Buddies, which is a collection of reviews of old media, bad movies, that kind of thing. It's very big, it's very colorful, I can't quite get it all in frame. You might include playlists or music collections of multiple types. This is You Need More, a Pet Shop Boys listening guide, and has a guide to albums and songs. This is another option. You could even make your entire zine a CD. This is a zine, I Made You a Mix CD Because I Have a Crush on You, that has playlists on this CD. Having little bonus bits is also really fun, and basically the entire zine is this playlist. And you might try having zine spotlights where you show off and talk about other zines that you've read. In my Unfair Maiden 2, in many of my Unfair Maidens, but I'm using this one, I have other zines in just a brief section of things I'm reading where I include a quote from each zine. In Confessions of an Ex-Zine Editor, many of these volumes have a variety of zine highlights and Zinester interviews. This issue highlights this zine, and you wonder why I want to scream. So as you can see, there are lots of different things that you can include in your zine, lots of different ways that you could express your information or your content, lots of different ideas. You can definitely mix and match or combine or mess with these. Just as a brief example of some of the ways that you can mix and match these or include these in a single zine, not to use this as a self-promo, but just because, I know it inside out. My first perzine, Unfair Maiden number 1, contains a quote / spotlight at the beginning of the zine. So this is a quote by the person who did the cover art, and a definition quote for Gothic hippie that I had found. It has typed memoir-style reflections on identity, on memories, and personal reflections on other nonfiction-ish topics. It has this list of basically funny quotes and pictures. It's got articles in it. It's got this page of scribbles as the background. It has, as I showed off before, the games and a single-page comic. And it has this list of things that I'm reading with this little physical stamp that I actually carved this one in particular, but, you can use any type of stamping that you would want. All of it interspersed with collage, with doodles and drawings, with photographs, with all sorts of different things. Definitely a, smorgasbord from all of these different options and more. This is actually another quick tip that I have while I'm holding this, is that sometimes having all of this can be really overwhelming. Having so many different options can be really overwhelming. And so picking a central theme, even if it's super loose, can really help to narrow down your focus. So the way that I tend to do my perzine series is that each issue has a different theme. And so this is just basically a one-word theme. This one is the summoning issue. And so then the concept of summoning, that idea, it sort of influences the rest of these, where, it just makes it a little bit more inspiring and easier to come up with things. Because if you see, draw a comic, that isn't necessarily inspiring. But if you have draw a comic about summoning demons, suddenly that becomes a lot more inspiring. Yeah, so you could try making some lists of things that you like, things that you find inspiring, free write, or make and see, see where it takes you. Or you could try a random theme generator if you're really stuck. But if you're finding it hard to know where to start, then that is my recommendation, is pick a theme and then combine theme plus one of these. Theme plus playlist. Theme plus news. Theme plus interviews. And of course, this only scratches the surface. There are so many more and so many ways to express these things. None of these sets a particular style, sets a particular topic. Every single zine that I shared in these examples are all vastly different from one another in style, in tone, in size, in color, in length, in, every other component of zine-dom that they could have. So you can definitely do any of these things in any way that you want. And a thank you to every single one of these creators for doing what you do, for sharing your amazing creative work in the form of zines. I will have each of these zines and their creators and a link if I can find one listed in the description below. I just wanted to say, you know, you guys rock. You guys are the zine community. And this is what you, viewer, can join.
Maniac. Hurry up.
Alright, so that's pretty much it for part 2. Hope that you're feeling inspired, and also if you want to explore some other zines to continue to get some more inspiration, then I will include a link to my free zine page on my website where I gather resources and places that I have found zines for free to read online, and my zines are also, when I bother to upload them, my zines are available to read on itch.io. I'll include all the links below. You know the drill. Next up is part 3. It's going to be a bit of a long one where we talk about supplies, zine making supplies, choosing the size of your zine, and setting up your master copy. So, hope to see you then. Bye-bye.